For today's lesson, we are going to be looking at how to compose a composition on a blank sketch page. We're going to be filling out the full entire page in the sketchbook to give us ideas of what to use later. Let's get at it. Okay. Look at here. It is my process journal. If we open up the process journal to page 3, we see the table of contents for process journal number 1. Right here are the landscape sketches. These are found on page 15. So let's go to page 15 and see what that looks like. Oh, would you look at that? We've got some stuff right here. We've got a student example of what a landscape sketch would look like in their PJ. This is complete imagination. You're coming up with your own landscape. We are going to be making you do 3 separate landscapes. You're going to have a clear foreground, a middle ground, and a background. The foreground is what's closest to us. The middle ground is what is halfway between us and the background. Notice how the size changes in elements as they go further away from us. There's not a ton of detail when it's connected to shading or tone on this piece, and that's okay because these are planning sketches. You will be doing your planning sketches on page 17, 18, and 19. We provide the blank pages in here. If you want to give us another one, that's great as well. Appreciate that. If you screw up, don't worry. You could also grab out some extra paper you have at home if you use all of this up to do your sketches. We're going to be looking that you're able to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of these concepts of filling out your page to begin with. We're going to be looking at how you understand the role of the art form in originally placed objects and its content. We're going to be looking at, do you understand where you place things, why you place things on a page? All right? So let's get at it. I'm going to turn my paper in the landscape orientation because that is how I would like to present it. A landscape tends to traditionally be the long way in front of you, not up and down. Now I'm going to be working in pen just so you can see it easier on your paper. This does not mean, or you can see it easier on the camera, this does not mean you have to do it in pen. You can do yours in pencil. To give us an idea of how to start this, one thing that I like to do is I like to start off with my horizon line. The horizon line is where the sky touches the earth. All right? And I'm going to put down maybe possibly a mountain range in the background. Giving myself some hills. Immediately, one line starts to divide the page into a landscape. From here, I can decide how much middle ground I have and how little middle ground I have. So I can come into this and possibly, I like the idea of changing it up. I had this side come down, so maybe this is a little bit more on an angle coming back to the left. And maybe I do it a little bit more dramatically down here. For me, right now, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I could have more. It's your drawing. It's your painting, or your oil pastel. You can do whatever you want. With this right here, I can decide if I want to have some trees in the background, if I want to have a path in the background. I'm going to go with a path today. I am not going to have anything such as cars or buildings in my landscape. We are working on landscape. We're not working on cityscapes. We will be doing cityscapes and everything later down the road in the school year. Right now we're doing a landscape. So in the back, maybe my path is really thin because of the fact of it's so far away, it looks really tiny. And maybe this path is continued, it dips down below, we can't see it winding or doing anything back there. And maybe the path ends up coming up here, but it's a little bit wider now. And now maybe the path comes up, goes down into the valley, comes back up, and now the path is directly in front of us over here. I'm just giving myself some ideas of where to place things, where to put things on the page. But I don't want to have just a desert. Neither should you. Let's put some vegetation in. Now, we are going to be learning about Impressionism. And the idea about Impressionism, as we've already talked in your Impressionistic notes, is that the Impressionists were not concerned about extreme high detail. And we're going to give impressions of vegetation. We're going to give the idea, but we're not going to worry about extreme detail. So maybe I put a tree off to the side here. It seems kind of heavy on the left. I want to have balance in my work. And the balance I'm going to be creating is called a symmetrical balance. Two unlike objects holding identical weight. So how do I do this? I'm going to decide to put a tree over here. And I'm going to do something like a Dr. Seuss tree. All right, something a little bit fun. Give it some movement in the piece. And I'm going to be looking for how my eye might travel around this composition. So maybe with the tree, I'm just going to give the idea, to give the impression of a tree almost like blowing in the wind. Remember, it's an impression. And then we come on up, add in maybe another branch or two. Notice how I was not concerned about drawing over the landscape. It's showing through. And why? Because I'm giving the impression. And I'm giving a sketch. I'm planning things out. If I don't like what I do, that is why we do 3 of them. We figure things out. Just really quickly putting in some ideas of where the branches could go, where the tree could be. I don't want to have my tree just floating here. I got to ground it onto the earth. So what should I put down below? Maybe I can anchor it to the bottom with some more land. Maybe I can put some vegetation down below. I'm giving the idea of vegetation. I'm not doing a cypress tree or anything. But it's starting to take shape. I'm starting to get ideas of land. I'm starting to get ideas of where I'm going to place my objects, because whatever I do here, I'm going to be using some of these elements, maybe not all of them, on a final drawing and a final oil pastel later on. I can have many more trees in the background. All right? So maybe back here, maybe I want to have a line of trees in the back. So I'm going to sit here and go, oh, what can that look like? Maybe they're evergreens this time. I'm giving that evergreen idea. The idea that maybe there's some evergreens and some vegetation. I'm not being extremely detailed. I'm just giving the impression. All right, this is going to be your drawing. It's going to be your little happy land that you're able to come up with how you make and how you create what's ever in there. Maybe I even have some more back here, a lot tinier. Giving the idea. I could down below here have a few little bushes. Giving the idea of bush. So it's not really just all perfectly clean and nice. We're dealing with wilderness, and we want to have some fun with it. And I'm adding as much as I want. We want to have some. You could add less if you wish, all right? Because we got the conifers in back and the deciduous trees on the other side. Maybe I want to put the sun in here, Or a moon. I could do a night landscape. But the one thing we do want to have, even though we're giving the impression of it, we don't want to be completely unrealistic with our size. I don't want to have a sun that is like this big where it's taking over the entire earth and we're all going to be in terrible, terrible trouble because the sun will burn us up. Oh no. We would want to have a relatively decent sized sun. Don't look into the sun, boys and girls. It can hurt your eyes. So over here, maybe I do something like a sunrise. And maybe my sun is only going to be this big. That looks like a relatively good size for me. From here, I can decide how my colors will play out. You're giving yourself an idea for placement. When we do our final drawing, we're going to come up with how we fill this in with all of the marks, just like Van Gogh did in Starry Night. We will fill up the sky with pattern. We will fill up the tree with patterns of marks. This whole thing will not be colored in like a traditional landscape that you might be used to working on in class. We want to leave it hollow and open at this point. It seems like not much was done here, but when we get to putting in all of our marks, this whole thing will be very, very detailed. You will make 2 more landscapes, 2 different types of landscapes. Maybe in another one, you have got yourself a pond, and maybe some trees, some larger trees in the background. Remember to overlap. Overlapping is key to giving you some nice vegetation. It gives more interest to the piece. Notice how I'm not putting everything dead center. All right. Maybe I have the land, the horizon line starting back here. I bring a little more of this tree in. I'm not going to put any animals in here. All right. I give myself some ideas for vegetation. Maybe some water lilies, some cattail. As you start to make this piece, it starts to evolve. All right. Maybe there's some rock formations off to the side. Give myself some more of those geometric shapes, of more angular, not as round and as flowing and as feminine, a little more masculine to make those rocks. All right. We can do as much of this as we want, as little of this, but remember, no matter how much you put in with vegetation, we still have got to get all those marks. Just like, what was it? Starry Night. What kind of movement? Impressionism. All right. We're going to have to figure out the flow of this piece. We're going to have to figure out the movement of this piece. And we are going to have to reflect upon the balance of this piece. All right. I gave you 2. You're going to give me 3 planning sketches. So you're going to have your landscape sketches, 3 of them. In these 3 sketches, this is where you are going to work out your movement, where your eye flows. That movement is also going to help direct your ideas towards, are you going to have a symmetrical landscape where it's the same on both sides, or an asymmetrical landscape where it still has balance, but it has 2 different objects holding the same weight. You are going to be paying attention to, do you have a middle ground, a foreground, and a background? Enjoy your time with the sketches. Be creative with these sketches. Have fun with these sketches. And remember to take a clean, clear photo and upload these sketches, all 3 of them, to Google Classroom. Have a good day.